Scarlett pondered the events of the past few months, struggling to piece it all together despite her best efforts. With slow, cautious steps, she followed the path leading to the wooded area. Her mind raced as she approached, consumed by thoughts of what she might uncover. Though she was certain of who resided there, she needed to see it with her own eyes to confirm the truth of her suspicions. It had been 6 years since Scarlett Nelson and Kevin Nelson had gotten married. Their mutual friends introduced them, and they hit it off immediately. After just 6 months of dating, Kevin proposed. They had a fairy tale wedding, and no expense was spared by Kevin. He paid for whatever Scarlett wanted. It was important to him that his bride was happy. During the first 3 months of the marriage, everything was fine. Kevin treated Scarlett to lavish dinners and getaways as romantic gestures. After that, Scarlett noticed that her husband's behavior had changed significantly. She had to compete with his work and friends to see him as he became more distant. While at home, he was always busy doing chores in their backyard. She didn't want to appear desperate, but she just wanted to spend time with her husband. Having been married for months, she expected that they would be discussing children soon. It was Scarlett's wish, and she was saddened that Kevin didn't even mention it. He appeared more interested in what he was doing than in her, even though she had no idea what he was doing. Scarlett would no longer tolerate it. With candles and soft music, she prepared a romantic dinner. What else could help get him back to her? If this didn't work, in spite of Scarlett's plans, the dinner didn't turn out as she had hoped. Her concerns were dismissed by Kevin, who was distant. "I'm busy, and I just don't think we should be worrying about having kids right now. I've got a lot on my plate at work," he told her. It was that night that Scarlett secretly wept herself to sleep. She felt alienated by her husband and began speculating that it wasn't only work that was keeping him occupied. Kevin was very active on social media, and as Scarlett scrolled through his various accounts, she saw him partying up a storm with his friends, all without her. He posed with work colleagues at parties that she wasn't even invited to as his plus one. In one of the photos, she could clearly see that he wasn't even wearing his wedding ring. What exactly was going on? Scarlett would soon find out the ugly truth. As weeks turned into months, Scarlett's suspicions grew. She couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong with her marriage. One evening, as Kevin rushed off to another work-related event, Scarlett decided to confide in her neighbor, Fiona, who lived on the other side of their house. Fiona had always been friendly and approachable, and Scarlett hoped she might have some insights. Pouring her heart out to Fiona, Scarlett shared her fears and frustrations about her husband's distant behavior. Fiona listened empathetically, her face showing a mix of sympathy and concern. Scarlett felt that she could discuss anything with Fiona, but she knew something Scarlett didn't. "I don't want to add to your worries, Scarlett, but I think you should know something," Fiona finally said hesitantly. "I've seen Kevin walk through the back of the house a few times. I don't know where he goes, but I've seen him going into that hidden path behind your house. I think it leads into the woods, but I'm not sure why he would go there so often. It's always when you're at work or otherwise occupied." Scarlett's pulse quickened. She knew he wasn't the outdoorsy type. Was he hiding something from her? Determined to uncover the truth, Scarlett couldn't ignore the nagging suspicion any longer. That night, she pretended to go to bed early but waited patiently for Kevin to make his move. He was very restless during dinner, and when Scarlett asked him about it, he brushed it off. Hours passed, and Scarlett heard the front door quietly click shut. Kevin thought she was asleep, but she was wide awake, fueled by a mix of fear and anger. With her heart pounding in her chest, Scarlett opened the back door and followed the same hidden path she had seen Kevin take. She could even smell the remnants of his cologne. As she quietly walked along the path, she could see his shadow still moving ahead. Scarlett quickly bobbed her head up just in time to see Kevin go into a house she had forgotten someone lived in so deeply in the wooded area. There, in the soft glow of the moon, she saw Kevin and a woman locked in an intimate embrace. It was clear that this was what she had feared all along. She had stumbled upon a secret affair, one that had been unfolding right under her nose. Tears welled up in her eyes as she watched her husband betray her trust. She wanted to scream and confront them both, but she held herself back. She needed concrete evidence, undeniable proof of her husband's infidelity, to confront him with. As Scarlett continued to watch in stunned silence, she noticed the woman's familiar features. It was their neighbor Jade. Jade was recently widowed, and Scarlett had completely forgotten to check in on her since her husband passed away. But it seemed like her husband, Kevin, was doing enough of that for the both of them. Scarlett quietly retreated. She needed time to think and to plan her next move. Confronting Kevin was inevitable, but she wanted to do it with undeniable evidence in her possession. Over the next few days, Scarlett became a detective in her own life. She meticulously collected evidence of Kevin's affair, text messages, photos, and even recorded conversations that proved his involvement with Jade. Meanwhile, Scarlett's demeanor changed. She became distant and withdrawn, avoiding Kevin as much as possible. He sensed something was amiss but couldn't put his finger on it. The tension between them was palpable. One evening, when Kevin was out at another supposed work event, Scarlett decided it was time to confront him. She had enough evidence to shatter his denials and lies. She called Jade, asking her to meet at their house. When Jade arrived, Scarlett presented her with the damning evidence of the affair. Jade's face turned pale, and she stammered, attempting to explain herself. It was a chaotic and emotional confrontation filled with anger, hurt, and accusations. Soon after, Kevin returned home to find both women waiting for him. The confrontation that ensued was explosive. Scarlett, with tears streaming down her face, confronted her husband with the irrefutable evidence of his betrayal. Kevin couldn't deny the truth any longer. He confessed to the affair with Jade, his voice filled with remorse and regret. He tried to explain how it had started innocently as he comforted their grieving neighbor, but it had spiraled into something more. Scarlett was heartbroken, overwhelmed by a mix of anger and sadness. The realization hit her hard. Her fairy tale marriage had unraveled into a nightmare. Summoning her strength, she told Kevin it was over. In the weeks that followed, they endured the painful process of divorce. Though emotionally exhausting, Scarlett knew it was the right choice. She deserved more than a husband who had shattered her trust so completely. As the divorce came to a close, Scarlett began to piece her life back together. She reconnected with old friends, rediscovered her passions, and embraced a newfound sense of self-worth. With time, she realized she was worthy of true happiness and resolved never to settle for less again.